Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. On today's show, we will meet Aanchal Bagalwadi from Bangalore, a textile designer, maker, and artist who graduated from Srishti School of Art, Design, and Technology. Her artistic practice is influenced by the need to work with her own hands as directed by her head and the heart. Aanchal's work involves natural dyeing and eco-printing using plant material to color and print on fabric. She also experiments with dye color making and natural handmade soaps. Alongside, Aanchal is a collector of typical and atypical things, a passionate baker, jewellery maker, and a tarot card reader. Not a day of hers goes by without her doggy, Theo. Welcome, Aanchal, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Thank you, Melinda, uncle. I feel honored to be on your podcast.
Love to have you on the show as well, Aanchal. Your new venture called Plant Paste, you say,
Yes.
is an upcoming revolving studio where you perform all the magic. So why don't we begin our conversation on this note where all the magic happens, about plant paste?
So I think I call it a revolving studio because I do a lot of things under this brand name. Sometimes I do natural dyeing, sometimes it's eco-printing, and a lot of the times it's soap making. But apart from these things that I do, there are also many concepts that I like to sort of delve into. There are many philosophies that I like to sort of explore through all the making processes. And eventually, I want to also open up the space to people to have more conversations about these philosophies that I believe are the need of the hour right now. Because I think we all need to change the way we do things and change the way we think about certain things in our life, especially when it comes to consuming things, basically.
What exactly are you alluding here?
What I'm saying is that, so I'm starting with something as basic as a soap, and I'm trying to say that, choose a better soap for yourself. And that's just one small aspect of it. But then there are many other things, because everything today is mass produced, and everything that's mass produced is not necessarily good for us. So through my brand, I want to sort of show and have a platform where people can discuss about what are certain changes that we can make to better our own life and make it more wholesome, not only for us, but also for the environment.
So when you say that you want to rethink the idea of consumption and our behavior of being a consumer, what is it that doesn't sit with you and why?
I think the main thing that doesn't sit with me is that we don't think before we make a decision to buy something or to consume something. There's very less thought, which is why things are mass produced. It's mass produced because it's worked for a while. And so then there's no thought about, okay, no, I don't need to choose another soap because this works for me. So I think deeper thought is something that is needed for these changes to happen. To understand, first of all, where our products are coming from, where they are made, who is making them, where the raw ingredients are coming from. I don't think a lot of us know that. And also, a lot of these products don't mention these things. They're not transparent. No, so in that sense, I think in terms of our consumption, we each need to question why we're choosing a certain thing and how is it beneficial to us and the environment and how it's impacting the two as well.
But it's easier said than done, Aanchal, isn't it? Because the world of consumer marketing essentially driven by advertisements. And this is a fairly perfected science and art now over many, many, many years, where consumer brands, especially the brands like of personal care, soaps that you talked about, and there are a whole lot of things. the entire push is to make an impulsive buy decision, isn't it? Like, for example, when I see a beautiful
Absolutely.
ad on a television, in between the TV show that I watch or whatever, or pushed in between a YouTube video that I'm watching, it's just to make me unconsciously make that impulsive decision to buy and possess and consume that product, be it a soap or be it a deo, for example.
I think my question to that would also be, why then are we succumbing to that? If we know so deeply that it's for us to make an unconscious decision, then why are we choosing it? Because, and absolutely, it is way easier said than done. That is the absolute truth. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And it starts with small things. It's not about, I think a lot of us also sort of disregard this culture of keeping the environment in our minds while we consume, because there's this pressure of, I have to look this kind of way. Then if I have to protect the environment, then everything that I do has to be this. But that's not true. It starts with small things. Small things like, I have not bought a bottle of shampoo for myself in the last 3 years because I make shampoo bars and I use natural ingredients for it as well. So small things, it's not about looking out there at what people are doing and then following what people are doing, which is why it comes to individual questioning of what am I doing that I need to change? Because everyone's doing something around the same thing in terms of consumer. Everyone is consuming something that is not necessarily environment friendly or friendly for our skin, our minds, our bodies, etc. But it's to start somewhere. Right? I was having a conversation recently with one of my mentors from my course that I'm doing, and he takes a cloth bag to his vegetable vendor every day. His vegetable vendor actually told him, if everyone brings a cloth bag, I can actually reduce the price of the vegetables for you, because he's spending on plastic bags to be able to send people away with their vegetables. So it's about the smallest acts, the smallest things. And that comes with essentially being able to be present with your choices, being able to be conscious in those moments. And these changes will be sort of ever changing till the end of time, because life keeps changing. So it's not that okay, today I think that a cloth bag would be a great thing to do. Tomorrow things will change and I'll have to adapt. But a lot of people are not adapting. They're fixed. Okay, this product from this shop works for me. I'm settled. I don't even have to think about it. And yes, that's how things are being marketed, to sort of have you not think, so that things are just settled and you go back to those places multiple times and then they make their profits. And it's a cyclic sort of, I want to say it's a cyclic loop into the rabbit hole rather than out of it.
So, Aanchal, am I hearing the voice of an activist right now for whom this is something very deeply personal, as if there is probably an Aanchal at some point in time who was trapped in this consumption game of sort of not so good products for oneself, for the environment, and one day woke up to something? So I don't know, is this something very personal?
It is. I don't think I've ever considered myself an activist, but it is very deeply personal, because I did go through a big phase in my life where I was questioning everything I was doing and everything I was experiencing as a result of, making certain choices. And I didn't like what I found out, because at the end of the day, it's not just about me. It's about all of us. We're collectively here for a reason. If not, I mean, we'd all have our own planet with one person on each planet, I guess. But we're all here together to move the human race into a better understanding of what it even means to be present on this earth. It's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's not just about, okay, I have these things in different places that I'm set and I can keep consuming them. But it's about questioning every day what's good for you and what's good for the people around you. And yes, maybe going on in the future, I do want to open up conversations about it where people are exposed. A lot of times, what also makes a difference is people just sharing different ways to do things, right? Like right now, the trend is, or many trends are Two, to be specific, were bamboo toothbrush or bamboo straws or steel straws instead of plastic. But at the same time, there is something to do with a trend that is impersonal, because it's still about the money, it's still about the economy in that sense of, okay, this is the new thing, so we're going to use this opportunity and not really sort of understand why we're doing it, but because these things are being bought right now, we put them into the market. That's not something I resonate with either, because even in terms of my soaps, based on the market, I can say, okay, this is working well in these couple of brands, people are buying all these kinds of soaps, and so I'm going to put those out there. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to choose and research and sort of formulate a soap that uses the environment for the beauty, that uses Mother Nature for the beauty that she gives us, with ingredients like manjista, haldi, vetiver, with all the essential oils that are also present. So it's not about what's working in the market, but it's about what is working for us as a race, as a people.
So when you say plant paste, are you kind of pointing to a pace or a speed or a rhythm or some kind of a cycle on which you are wanting to base your philosophy and your products?
Yes, absolutely. The reason it's called plant paste is because it is at the pace of plants, at the pace of nature. So, for example, I use Calmondon orange peels for one of my soaps, and that's a bestseller because everyone really loves it. But I can't make that soap all year round, and I'm completely okay with that. I don't need to make it all year round, because when the fruit is ready on the tree is when the soap comes to life, right? When nature is ready to provide based on the seasons is how my soaps also how my soaps get formulated. So, and that is something that's also based in very ancient practices. The older generations used to eat fruits and vegetables and make certain things based on the availability and based on the seasonality of the fruits and vegetables or whatever else it may be available. Today, a lot of things are being genetically modified to be able to be available all year round. What that means is that the natural aspect of a fruit or vegetable is being replaced by something unnatural. And that absolutely changes the fruit completely, or the vegetable completely, or whatever it is natural. It changes the nature of these ingredients, these raw materials. Then it takes away their purpose, essentially.
One of the podcast episodes, sorry to interrupt you here, Aanchal, but one of the earlier podcast episode, we had a person who's taken to beekeeping as a profession and a way of life. And he was talking about honey that he produces from different flower sources. And essentially he has those 200-300 boxes that he will go in the jungles and put it there and collect raw honey depending upon the season, whether it is in Rajasthan or Haryana, or whether when the mustard crops come up in Punjab, he goes there, or there are some other flowers that bloom in Jammu Kashmir, he goes there. And he talked of a very interesting thing, saying that the honey that we eat comes from a source, which is a flower, which is very unique, and which basically means that the honey that we taste has to be distinct based on its source. Unlike the honey that we buy in the market, it always tastes the same. Absolutely. He says that is not honey, that is chemical.
Yeah, it's true. And the fact that he's even moving around to different places to source honey at different stages based on what crop is growing or what flower is growing will automatically change the taste of the honey. It's but natural. That's what I mean by consumerism, is sort of standardizing things. And what this standardization is doing is it's taking away the authenticity of things. So yes, the honey everywhere, if you buy Dabur honey in Bangalore, if you buy Dabur honey in Pune, it's going to taste the same pretty much. But that's because it's coming from the same source, which is unnatural.
And at any time of the year.
At any time, exactly, and at any time of the year. And what that does is it's also taking away the purpose and the purpose of bees. Now, the purpose of a bee is to go around and suck the nectar from these sweet flowers collect the pollen, and then go back home, and then the honey gets created. Now with the lack of flowers around, or at least, yes, we have the most common ones still around that don't need too much upkeep. But what about the special flowers from which we can get special honey? Right? What about those?
He was telling about a beautiful story that one of the best honey he sources, and he says there's a huge demand is found in the market, is the honey that he sources from a tree called jujuba tree. Jujuba is an Indian name. I don't know what is the scientific English name, but they say the jujuba tree, which he finds somewhere in Rajasthan, where he was talking about, because he's lived in those tribal regions for sourcing honey from the jujuba trees. He says those trees are planted along the banks of a river at a certain distance from the bank, and along those banks, whatever communities are living, one of the things they do is they consider these trees as very, very sacred. There is some kind of a ritual and mythology built around it, where they go and worship these trees and basically protect it, essentially because it holds the sand and it attracts those bees, etc., etc. So there seems to be in the nature which local community people or tribals know of that we urban people don't, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And unfortunately, or rather fortunately, the only way you can really sort of understand these things or be exposed to them is by interacting with these communities. But at the same time, it's a very delicate space. You can't be the same person you are in the city when you go and interact with them. You have to be very, you have to sort of allow yourself to be open to the way they live life, the way they, what they think is important.
Have you walked around the hinterland of the country by any chance?
Not too much, but recently I was at a trip in Leh Ladakh, and we stayed with a community that basically it's an artisan community, and they have a group called Kulvi Women's Self-Help Group. This is in Nagar, not Himachal, sorry, not Leh. This is in Nagar, which is between Kullu and Manali. And there, if you look at their houses, for example, their houses are built around their looms. Okay, and that's just one aspect. The other things are everyone does everything. The concept of a maid or help does not exist. Everyone is everything, and everyone does everything together. So let's say there's grass that's grown too high outside their house, they take turns to go and cut it. Breakfast, they take turns to go and pluck the apples from their trees outside to make the breakfast, and they do everything together. What that translates into on a very larger scale is the energy that they create by living that way. Which is why if anyone has ever gone up to the hills, it's a different kind of energy. I mean, not all places, not the heavily populated places at this point, because many are being populated because of tourism, but the more quieter places, the energy there is so pure because that same energy is what they are putting into their land. There is no aspect of this is my apple tree, so I will not share with you. No, there's community. And I think that sense of community that they've built is something that we lack in the cities. It's very different. It's very individualistic.
So what of that community energy you are drawing from, which probably has helped you articulate the vision for your brand plant-based? What does plant-based stand for, drawing from this energy, if I can ask you?
It's a space for inclusivity, basically. When I say that, what I mean is it's for everyone. It's not, even the products. One is it's for everyone. These soaps can be used on babies. They can be used on on adults, they can be used on dogs, they can be used for everyone. The ingredient is so pure, the formulation is so pure, because as much as possible, I'm trying to source from the purest forms of nature. So a lot of things I grow at my farm, and I use the ingredients. So it's for everyone. And yes, in terms of the prices, I'm working on a situation where I can make it more affordable to people, so that it can continue sustainably. But at the end of the day, it includes everyone in its conception. Many people might not buy it at the end. Many people might not, or too many people might not have access to it. But at the conception of it, it's inclusive. And I believe that if it's inclusive at the inception stage, then that energy will automatically carry forward.
And how is this manifesting? How is this manifesting in your natural dyeing and eco printing work?
It's the same for that as well. So another aspect of the industry is that everything is dyed using synthetic colors. And to draw out a sort of cycle of how it happens, your clothes are first of all made using unnatural fibers. Then they're dyed using unnatural dyes. The same water goes back into our rivers, into our oceans, which then essentially some of the water that stays around is condensed into rain. So every aspect of the cycle gets affected by the unnaturalness of the processes and techniques that we use here. So by with the natural dyeing and eco printing, I also hold a lot of workshops so that people can firsthand experience what it's like to be able to. So I recently did a workshop using onion skins, and everybody uses onions in their house.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very commonly used vegetable for cooking. So we use the skins of the onion to dye, and I think it's important for people to see and experience that all the things we use and really discard actually have way more importance and way more value than the things that we hold so close to ourselves. So through natural dyeing and eco printing, it is to bring about awareness. This is something that will take time, because like you said, right now the sort of structure in our minds is, if it looks nice and if it's bright and if it's this and that, then we take it, we buy it. The thing with natural colors is they're natural. They mature over time. They might not be as bright and sort of color fast as unnatural colors, but unnatural colors fade over time. Natural colors are constantly living, and that interaction with wearing something that is constantly living, a month later it'll sort of deepen. It again depends on the natural dye. It'll sort of deepen. A year later it will sort of take on a different cast. So I don't think that a lot of us are exposed to these things to be able to appreciate them.
So looks like what I'm hearing from you, Aanchal, is whilst at one hand, at plant-based, you are making handmade soaps, or you are doing eco printing or natural dyeing on your fabric, etc. Those are like manifest products of an underlying philosophy, which is actually what is drawing your energy right now.
I mean, it even started out of me first having the experience of finding a shampoo bar in the market, and I was mind blown. I was like, wow, this is great. What is a shampoo bar even? I've never heard of it before. And I had never seen or heard of a shampoo bar, and I found it in the market. And I contacted this lady, and she's a much older woman. She's probably in her 60s, late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And she makes these soaps. So I contacted her because I wanted another one after finishing my first bar. And she said, I'm also doing workshops. If you're interested, you can come. Call a bunch of other people if you can. And I asked a lot of people around me, but nobody was interested in this workshop. So I said, Auntie, I'm sorry, I have not been able to sort of bring anyone around. Nobody's convinced. Nobody is really interested in this thing. But would you be open to doing a workshop for me? And she was overjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And the zest with which she makes these products the excitement that comes when she's, and the soap is ready to unmold. It was so inspirational. And maybe her philosophies are not the same as mine in terms of, me shifting my philosophies, but that's just who she is as a person. She loves homemade things. She loves natural things. And so she makes lipstick, she makes soaps. And it was, I think that also sort of sparked this thing in me that I have the gift. We all have the gift of our hands. We all have the gift of our minds, right? We can all make, and that's how the world was, that's how it was in ancient times. Everyone made everything from scratch. And the reason they made everything from scratch is because they were the ones who were going out and sourcing everything for it. Right? And as families, they would sit together. One would be sifting, one would be cleaning, one would be cutting, one would be cooking. So, this, again, it comes back to the community aspect that we were speaking about, that everyone is involved in the process. And everyone learns something at each stage of the process. Right? The patience that comes by sitting and cleaning things, the patience that also the wisdom that comes with sitting with natural things is very different from the unnatural world.
So early part of our conversation, you also talked about plant paste also being a space you wish to create for conversations.
Yes.
Around a way of life which we seem to have, at least the urbanites, the city dwellers, a life from we have drifted away from. If you were to say that these are the 2 or 3 things that happens at whatever time it happens, you feel you would have succeeded with plant-based.
It is also an ever-changing, which is why the term revolving studio. So the concept is not to change people necessarily basically what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to change people. What I'm trying to do is hold space for people to realize themselves that, hey, we need to change. I'm nobody to change anyone but myself. And so I am my responsibility in that perspective to make sure that I'm doing what I can do, and I'm doing the best of whatever I can do. And the space for conversation and exposure and experience is not to say, okay, you're doing this, so now you have to adopt these things. It's for them to realize. It's for people to realize for themselves, and for that change to come from their will and not from mine. Right? Because that's more sustainable to me. If I'm going around superficially changing people, I have failed. Right? But if I can hold a space for people to, then sort of come back and share information or share things in the space of, hey, I wanted to do this because I felt like it was needed, then that's great. Then that's change to me. It's not about, again, it's not just about me, it's about all of us collectively.
And I think I like what you said, Aanchal. What you said a little while ago is conversations with each other and with oneself, probably, to reflect on the choices we are making, choices of the way we live our life and the way we should be living our life. So really questioning the choices is what you're talking of, plant-based becoming a space for a space which is inclusive and for one and all is what I'm gathering. Such a beautiful thought. Aanchal, while introducing you, I mentioned that you are a tarot card reader, something which you seem to have been drawn towards. For me, I'm kind of a bit ambivalent, to be very honest, with regards to tarot. I don't know much about it, but every time I have tried to understand what it is, what it stands for, what it does, what I've experienced is neither am I attracted towards it, nor am I repelled away from it. It's kind of somewhere in between. But with
Okay.
somebody like you there, I would want to give it a shot. If you could do
Okay.
a small reading session for me right now.
Yes, I would absolutely love to. And I've got my cards ready. I've got a little crystal grid on the side as well. And I would like to start with a small meditation so that we can fully be present and be here with ourselves right now. Are you okay with that?
I'm all yours.
Okay, so make sure your feet are placed on the ground. Uncross them if they're crossed. Place your palms facing upward and on your lap. And gently close your eyes. Make sure you're in a comfortable position. And take a deep breath in. And exhale and let go. You're going to do this 2 more times at your own pace. Allow yourself to deepen the inhale and allow yourself to extend your exhale. The deep breath in. As you exhale, bring your palms in front of your face. Open your eyes with a few gentle blinks and look straight at your palms. I can sense this eager energy bubbling of what's going to happen, what's going to be told, what's going to be said. So the more you allow yourself, you're ready to?
I'm ready to go through whatever that happens.
Okay. Yeah, so the more you allow yourself to just be in the moment, I will be channeling the very same energy. So tell me about your question. While you do that, I'm going to just shuffle the cards to get new energy flowing into them. And while I do that, we can discuss your question that you have.
Can I say the question?
Yes, you can say it.
So, Aanchal, last January 2022, Asha and I started this Wings podcast with a simple idea of having conversation with young Indians like you to listen to their stories and celebrate the stories on the Wings platform on a podcast through a podcast medium. And we started with maybe 6 or 7 young boys and girls, young men and women agreeing to come on the show. We never knew where will it go, whether it will last. But a year onto the podcast, we have released 54 episodes, one every week, without missing even 1 week of 2022. Now, at one level, we are super happy that something like this has happened. The question I have is, what is really happening here? Where is this podcast drawing its energy from? So what is happening on this podcast beyond the conversations, and why are they happening?
Okay. There's a lot of excitement. So basically how I also channel through my tarot readings is I usually channel and call upon the person's higher self. So there are some things that you are meant to know only now after a year of doing it for a reason. So we're going to address that reason. Now, as you watch me shuffle the cards, I'm going to have my eyes closed while I shuffle the cards, but focus your energy onto the cards. Maybe I'll lower the screen a little more. And could you once again ask your question and address the question to the cards? So you don't have to necessarily say to the cards, but ask the question focusing your energy onto the cards. Okay, whenever you're ready.
So in doing the Wings podcast, whatever Asha and I started a year back, the question I have is, what is really happening and why is it happening? What is keeping the podcast going?
Okay, so the first card that actually came out was Vishuddha, which is the throat chakra card.
Okay.
The throat chakra is related to expression. It's related to honesty, speaking. Okay, so I think what y'all have created without necessarily sort of going in with that energy is you've created a voice or a platform for the voices of people to reach different parts of the world. But it's a platform that's not structured with things that will inhibit the voice. Instead, it's structured with being able to sort of raise the voice in a way that the expression is absolutely honest, because you're tackling it through a conversation rather than trying to achieve something out of it. The purpose is the conversation. The purpose is not what comes out of the conversation. That is things that will unfold on its own, but the purpose is the conversation. If you see the card, he's got both his hands like this, basically at his throat chakra, to allow for the voice to do what it has to do. Okay. The throat chakra is also the fifth chakra, which number 5 talks about changes. Number 5, when it's present in your life, it's about pausing to see what's around you so that you can know what to take forward and what to leave behind, essentially. Right? And so I think in also having these conversations, you're allowing people a space to listen back and realize certain things for themselves in terms of expression. Okay. Next, we have this has basically formed a pathway very similar to this, wherein the steps, you're essentially, what you're doing is you're illuminating the steps. The steps were always there for people, right? The steps towards this more connected life. The steps were always there, but what's happening through the conversation is, let's say the light was being shown in that direction and everyone's steps are to the right. What's happening is through the conversation, the light is slowly being shifted and everyone is being able to then see that staircase. That staircase represents what people have always wanted, or the way they have always wanted to address certain things in their life, or the way they've always wanted to tackle certain things in their life, be it career, be it personal expression, be it whatever it is in their own life. The light is being moved from other places that don't really serve them onto the staircase, right? With this card, this is the Hierophant. It's another number 5 card. So your reading has essentially started with number 5 and also ended. This was the last card, but I'm being guided to read that card first. So this also a number 5. So your reading has started and ended with number 5. Also through the reading, I have also kept Ashanti in mind so that both of your energies come through. And the Hierophant represents higher learning. That is what the Hierophant represents. It represents traditions. It represents higher learning. It represents being the teacher and the student. It represents wisdom. Wisdom meaning knowledge that has been turned into wisdom because of action, because of taking action based on what you know. Okay. What that has also caused is, we have the number 2 of Pentacles, movement, choices, and decisions. So the card has many aspects of life. It has marriage, it has nature, it has air, essentially representing the different elements.
Mhm.
And what it's creating is it's opening up new avenues for people. What I'm getting from this card is, when you go to an art gallery and you see a painting that moves you, it moves you in a way that it allows you to question what you see, right? So there's also a being here who is sort of questioning all these different spaces in his
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
They're creating a space where people get to question what they're doing while having a conversation with you. Okay. Next, we have the number 6, which is the 6 of Cups, which is memories of love.
Mhm.
What this is leading to is helping them let go again of things with love. Memories of love is what it says. But it's also helping them hold on to what is true. There's something about hearing your own voice in a conversation. It
Yes.
usually doesn't happen. Not many people are really hearing themselves when they talk. So you're giving people a space to be able to hear themselves, which it's quite a cathartic experience for people. And even if people might not receive that now, they will, because they have had the conversation, right? What that's also leading on to, these cards came up in the order that I'm showing you right now, starting with the number 2 of Pentacles.
Correct.
Okay, and it's moving on to the 6, which is then moving on to the 5. Now the flow of cards is also, Pentacles they represent the physical aspects of life. They represent your career, your money, your finance, your physical, tangible things in life, basically.
Mhm.
Then we have the number 6, which is Cups, and Cups represent your emotions, your relationships. Okay, the way you treat yourself, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with the people around you, this feeling of community, right? The heart chakra. Then the next card that we have is the number 5, once again, obstacles and challenges. Now, if you see that there's a stone path that needs to be crossed, but it's broken.
Correct.
What still you can see is an aspect of water.
Correct.
That represents flow. And essentially the Wings podcasts, as much as it is also the wind beneath the wings, it's also the water that keeps the flow through phases of like this of people.
Correct.
Wherein many people that you speak to might be going through many other things in the background that automatically get tackled through the conversation. Where again, the conversation might not seem like, oh, I am going through this, and so this is the solution that I found, but it's in the energy that you're holding and in the space that you're holding, and the space that I'm hearing has been created through this 1 year that has also sort of expanded, that is helping people feel like, okay, yes, there is an obstacle, but I can cross it. I have what I need to cross it.
Aanchal, that was a very intense and a deeply personal tarot session that you did for me. I don't want to thank you because that would sound very formal. All I can do is give you a flying kiss right now.
Thank you.
In the introduction, I also said that not a day of yours goes by without your doggy Theo.
Yes.
So, who is Theo and what does he mean to you?
Theo is my papa. He's now 6 years old, and I can't even believe that it's been 6 years, to be honest. But as any dog owner would know, I think dogs really bring in a lot of love. And what my Theo has done is he's he's brought in a lot of love into my home. He's brought in a lot of love into the lives of everyone who is a part of home, and more than anything, I think he's brought in this aspect of softness. He's brought in this aspect of people being able to be soft with him, and in the process being able to be soft with themselves. And it's all because he loves so deeply, and he's present so deeply, and without even knowing himself, it's almost like he had this magical sort of thread tied to him, and every time he interacted with anyone in the house, this thread sort of just brought us all closer together. And I think that is the most beautiful aspect of animals, when you love them back as well. And with dogs, they're so unconditional, and not a day goes by because he makes me feel loved every day, and I want to make him feel loved every day too. So in whatever way I can, I try to spend time with him. He loves to play with his toys. I play with him. We run around. We just sometimes just sit and, I sit with him and spend very conscious time, conscious moments with him, of sharing love and sharing just togetherness.
So Aanchal, here you are, a textile designer, maker, and an artist, a graduate from Srishti School of Art, Design and Technology, one of India's most respected art school. You are a passionate baker, a jewellery maker, a tarot card reader. We experienced you just now. Where does this beautiful and sensitive person see herself going forward?
Well, for starters, I think I see myself creating more space for me in my life. And I see that translating into all the relationships that I share with people, whether I know them or not, but whoever I may encounter, I wish to share a sense of openness, share a sense of non-judgment, and share my ears and my heart that are ever wanting to listen to everyone, basically.
This is a Wings podcast, and as I was listening to you throughout this long conversation that we've had, I actually envisioned you like an eagle with wings, and the wingspan being so large, as if it would touch a horizon on one end and the other, and under its wings, it is wanting to include and bring together just everybody that this beautiful eagle can. That's the image I had of you in this conversation.
That is a beautiful image. Yes, and very close to what I also envisioned for myself.
So, Aanchal, I have been deeply touched with everything that we spoke of in this conversation. Love to hear from you. How has this experience been for you, and what does it mean for you to be on this Wings podcast?
I think now having now that the tarot reading is done and I'm back to not being the medium, I think as now when I go back to all the things that were said, I definitely resonate with the fact that I know I'm going to listen to this, and I know that hearing myself and hearing what I'm speaking about is going to only strengthen some steps that I need to take within myself to be able to move forward, like you mentioned, and the timing could not be more perfect, like you mentioned earlier, because I think we've been wanting to do this for a while, but I have not been ready. And I think with the way things have already begun to change in my life, I know that there's only upward from here, and I think I'm more prepared because I am able to sort of access the tools better, and I feel privileged to also have you in my life as someone who also might care for people the way I do in your own way. So I feel very happy to share that space with you as well.
All I can say, Aanchal, I love you so much and I shall always love you.
Thank you, Uncle. I love you too.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.